Are you sick of waking up with anxiety and regret after drinking? I get it. I was a weekend binge drinker, fooling myself into believing I was detoxing all week, only to retox every weekend and live completely outside of alignment with my values. As a former personal trainer who cared about health, that disconnect pushed me to finally make a change. I'm Maureen Bankovich, and this is Sober Fit Life, a podcast where we get real about alcohol, share powerful stories, and learn from wellness experts so you can thrive physically, mentally, and emotionally. Let's get sober fit. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI. Welcome back to Sober Fit Life, everybody. Today's guest is Karla Atkins, an alcohol freedom coach, also certified with This Naked Mind and co-owner of Zero Proof Life, and they just launched a podcast. Karla is also an author of a book called She Came Tumbling Down, where she shares her powerful story of what started as using alcohol to manage her anxiety and yet led to serious health consequences, including alcohol-related liver disease. But her journey didn't end there. She turned everything around and now helps others break free from alcohol and reclaim their well-being with honesty, compassion, and a whole lot of courage. So I'm so excited, Karla, to have you here today to share your story, to help other women who are so often, like we were, both drinking for anxiety or just drinking because everybody else was doing it, and just to share your story about, what can really happen. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here with you, Maureen. I really am. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's just kind of start with your story, if that would be okay with you. Like when, when you were drinking, what was that like? And then when did you start to realize that something was wrong?
As we were talking a little bit before we got started, just around our age and everything, I just turned 49, and back in the day, when I was growing up, I just really, if I look back, I just really glamorized alcohol. I romanticized it. It wasn't like if I was going to drink, it was like when I got to drink one day, that type of thing. And so what I felt like it was pretty normal, quote unquote, drinking, because everybody did. So, drinking in high school, not much. I mean, when we would go to parties, again, it seemed very normal in my mind. And the very end of high school, when I was a senior and then going into college, is where I really started struggling with anxiety. I had my first few panic attacks, and one was while I was driving, and another was at another big event. And it really rocked me, those panic attacks. It's so fascinating. They're so physical. I had no idea. I heard the word. But also, speaking of time, back then people really didn't talk about
going to anxiety. Say, did you even know what was happening?
No. Well, one, I totally thought it was something wrong with me physically, because, the panic, especially those intense panic attacks, are so physical. The dizziness, felt like it was like a horrible bout of vertigo, the sweating, the shaking. And my aunt struggled with anxiety. So I had someone to kind of educate me and talk to me about what that was like. So that was so, beautiful that I had her. Still had no idea what to do with it.
Right.
But quickly saw what anxiety and panic can do in people's lives. I describe it in the book as, it's the exact same as alcohol, but anxiety, like, it started with these very intense, specific situations, but then soon kind of weaved its way into all aspects of my life. And really, when I went to college is where it really peaked and heightened. And I really struggled. I learned, I was starting to live my life around my anxiety. And those of you people that struggle with bouts of panic attacks or anxiety will totally feel this. Like when you're in that situation, what happens is you then avoid that
Mm,
thing because your body then says, hey, that place is dangerous,
danger.
danger. And mine just happened to be at the grocery store. And I always mention the grocery store because I am not alone in that fact. And I didn't
Interesting.
learn that till late, way later on. I'm sure thinking about it as a 19-year-old, I was so ashamed of that. Like,
That's what I was gonna ask you. So the shame, you're
oh,
having this happen to you, you don't really know what it is.
yeah,
You start feeling shame. When did you link drinking to calming yourself or, help
right.
medicate yourself, I guess?
And that is, if I look back, it was in college where I
Okay.
had this experience of, I remember like going out, for example, and being really nervous about this, party we were going to, because at that point it was impacting me socially too. And drinking and automatic feeling better. And I thought at the time, like, this is great. Like I get to drink and it fixed me per se. I felt great and went on to, think I had a great night or whatever. But that is like, in looking back, is where I felt those two things go together.
So that neural
And
pathway was
oh,
formed then
1,000%.
and got
And
stronger as you
yes,
continued. So what happened? How did it continue?
right. And so it only strengthened and it
Mm.
only then, and again, I wasn't at that point, to just to be clear, like probably to the outsider, my drinking still looked somewhat normal. I mean, I was definitely, listen, those that know Clemson, I went to Clemson. I worked at Tigertown Tavern. It was a dangerous place to work. Oh my gosh.
I went
I
to Penn
remember.
State, so I hear you. I
Okay.
mean, I
Yeah.
know exactly.
Yes. I was a waitress there, so I don't wanna be misleading. It was definitely a
Sure.
part of my life, but it's not like at that point I was saying, "Okay, I have to go to the grocery store, I'm gonna drink." It wasn't that strongly connected. It was, but I can see back, that's where I attached it to. This will help me. I can drink
Mhm.
and it will make me feel better. I hadn't yet incorporated, like, okay, I'm going to, you know, drink before speech class because I'm having a panic attack. It wasn't there. It definitely, there was an evolution, but the
Yeah.
start, that hook, was in college.
Well, it's
And
always so important to be able to look back,
mhm,
on the other side of alcohol. I can look back and see the strong ties, the connections, the neural pathways I made and when they started. But when we were in it, we were young, we were
yes,
metabolizing alcohol better, we were doing what everybody else was doing, but then it
yeah.
progressed. So what did that look like as it started progressing throughout your life?
Well, and then, again, to the outsider, I then outside of college had a very successful professional career. I did many things, but I ended up in pharmaceutical sales. So
Me
I
too.
was, there you go.
Yeah.
I was out and about and,
Yeah.
just doing my thing. And so in the work world, I was successful, getting, promoted and doing things. But the anxiety, I was
Mhm.
becoming riddled with the anxiety.
Yeah, let's just
And
stop there for a second because I
yeah,
was a pharmaceutical sales rep. It's like a high pressure position. You're
yes,
trying to stop doctors in the hallway. They don't really want to talk to you, right? You
yes,
got your pitch. I found that all very anxiety producing, as well as your bosses coming to ride with you. Back then, they used to anyway. And then also all the whining and dining of doctors. So, did you find
yes.
that helped increase everything?
Oh, a
Yeah.
thousand percent. 1,000%. The whining and dining, taking them out to do stuff. Another component of my drinking that I want to add was I have what I think they now call like benign essential tremors. So I have a small tremor to my hand. And obviously, when I'm anxious, that tremor that is there all the time gets heightened. And I remember, and this was when I was a pharmaceutical rep. I went to a neurologist because, again, these doctors. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to get an answer and fix my hands. And just because that was also a cause of a lot of big social anxiety. You can imagine sitting down at lunches
Sure.
with doctors or trying to hand out my thing
Oh,
to
yeah.
get signed, everything. And I was so self-conscious. Oh my gosh, I was so self-conscious. And I'll never forget waiting forever to meet with this neurologist. And he asked me, told him about my hands. And the first question he asked me, well, does it go away when you when you drink? So
Wow.
do the shakes go away when you drink? And I was like, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, he gets it. And he just goes, well, then why just drink?
Oh
And
my,
I
the doctor
remember,
said this, the
yes,
neurologist. Wow.
wanting to crawl in because medical studies show benign essential tremors. And we're not talking about a tremor of post-drinking tremor. This is a like
Right.
it's there all the time. There's nothing physically wrong with you, but it can really impact you socially. But it does show that alcohol will reduce the tremors. And so for him, and already at that point, back in my subconscious, I was worried about my drinking.
Mhm.
I didn't like it. And so for him to say that, I just wanted to crawl in a hole. And I'm like, no, like I can't. I don't want to do this. It's not serving me. Or I felt like at that point I was starting to kind of lose control of
Yeah.
things. But
Yeah,
I
but
was
so there's
single.
that cognitive dissonance, right? Here you are in your subconscious knowing, "Oh, I'm drinking too much. I'm kinda concerned about this." You go to this doctor and instead he says, "Drink more." So part of you's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, exactly. So one part of me was scared. The other was like, well, thank goodness I
Right.
can keep drinking. And it was like getting permission,
Yes.
to just drink. He was like, well, then just drink a beer, like just drink. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So, it obviously, I always tell people is alcohol. And it's at the end of the day, very predictable. The important moral to the story is it's not predictable in how it impacts us physically. I think it's so important, and it's why I share my story, because people want a recipe of like, okay, how much were
Yeah.
you drinking? Like,
Yeah.
give me the number. They definitely want the number. And I always say this because I would have been the one asking,
Yeah,
because
I
like,
was. I would Google it. You know what?
right,
How many
what,
drinks, means that you have a problem.
yes.
Yeah.
And especially once I got, you know, sick, it's like, what caused that? Because I'm just going to stay away from what she does.
Right. I'll
And
just
that's
stay
just
right
not,
under that limit.
yeah, I want to stay underneath that limit.
Yeah.
So, again, professionally, I was still functioning. Meanwhile, it was just getting worse. I saw myself, kind of shrinking away from the world because I would blame
Yeah.
everything on my anxiety. And also the confusing part here too, Maureen, is that, my anxiety was very physical, where, I
Mhm.
mean, I made me feel physically sick.
Mm.
So a lot of people ask, well, how did you know when you started to get sick? What did that look like? And again, there's not a crystal clear picture because it really mirrored what was, it looked like anxiety,
Right.
GI issues, really horrible, GI issues, the anxiety, the horrible like panic and anxiety. And I always just said, oh, that's my anxiety getting worse. Never putting two and two together that alcohol was making it worse. I it When I was drinking, I would have told you with every ounce of my being that alcohol was the only thing that helped me.
Yeah.
Like I it was the only thing that helped me. Um
Because short term, in the
yeah,
moment, it felt like it
I remembered
because
that it
chemically
did.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
so
then the
I
backlash,
was
what happens? We didn't know about that.
we
Yeah.
no, we didn't know. And I remember being honestly like at the back end pretty shocked by that. Now, again, hindsight perspective now, I should have been able to put it together. But here's the thing that I think the world needs to also realize. We are being sold
Yeah.
alcohol 24/7. One of my luxuries at night is picking up just a fictional book. Some people out like coaches be like, I'm reading this like intense, like self-help book. I'm like, I'm reading I don't want to
Take
think
a
about it. I
break.
want to check out
Yeah.
at night. But what I do think is so interesting, even reading these little books,
Oh, yeah.
these messages, we are constantly being the beliefs around what alcohol does. Think about it. I deserved, the drink at the end of the hard day,
Mhm.
or I was getting ready for my date and had my wine. It's always very romanticize a beautiful picture.
Yeah, I mean, think about every show, every movie,
Every show.
even in literature, like you said. I always think of Sex in the City because that really
Yes.
glamorized it. Like you sophisticated women who have it all going on,
Right.
fashion, cosmopolitans. I think that's when they became so
Yeah, the
popular.
cosmopolitans,
Yeah,
yes.
and so
And
we
even
really bought that.
professionally, right, work people, you should be able to handle it all, and so it is so hard when you've got this belief. Yeah,
Yeah,
stress. The world is gonna tell you, "Oh my gosh, you wanna
yeah,
relax? Have a drink."
yep,
So when I'm struggling with anxiety, like, it is like you're going against a belief that started way before I ever took my first sip of alcohol. Like,
right,
so
of
there was
course.
already beliefs formed there, like, of just what I was told by the world. And then I had that connection of thinking it helped.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really hard, and I
Yes.
think people look at others like, "Oh, I mean, just stop."
Well, that's why I
It's
just wanted to say to you, I've got to stop you because you even
Yeah,
just said I should have put it all together, but
right,
how could you? And you
right.
didn't know. You didn't know
No,
until on the other side of alcohol, and you learned all of this just like I did about the brain chemistry and the physiology and the science and how it really affects us. But that's why so many people aren't putting it together
they're
because the
not.
marketing is so strong and
The
pervasive in every aspect of our life.
It's everywhere, and how many
Hmm.
times have you heard family members, I'm sure my own, but I hear it all the time, "If they loved me enough, they would just stop." It
Right.
is so much more
Yeah.
complicated than that, and we have to start understanding the different nuances, and again, like you just said, I didn't have that until now,
Yeah.
like, the hindsight, number
Yeah.
1, there had to be a lot of healing that came in, um, then learning the science and all of that, and only
Yes.
now can I then
Look back.
understand, and then have the grace and understanding to understand
Yes.
what the heck happened. Like, why couldn't I just stop? And
Well, let's go back to your story for a second because I want to
yeah,
make it clear you were what we call a gray area drinker, right? So on the outside, you have it all together. You're
right,
working, you have a family, like
right. And I would definitely not. I was definitely a hider. I wouldn't categorize myself as a gray area drinker. I wouldn't put myself there. I think I was just a person that was good at spinning the plates and
well, that's what I mean by gray area
yeah,
drinker. So someone who, you don't look like the typical person in the gutter, but you're feeling shame about your drinking. You're worried about
yes,
it. You take some breaks at some points, but you always go back
yes.
to the drinking. That's yeah,
Yes. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
100%, and that's another
hmm,
thing. I remember giving up for Lent. I was that was always my
yeah,
confirmation that I didn't have a problem because I
exactly.
stopped. I unfortunately didn't put that together because I remember my body, like, I feel great and look great after the 40 days, but then
Yeah,
I
of
went straight back to drinking.
course.
Um,
So when did
but
you
to go back
when
to
did
my
you
story, it
yeah.
just ramped up, and I'll never forget, I knew at some point one I wanna tell a specific thing, and this is where it's always this again brought up a lot of shame for me just to share it, and I shared in
Yeah.
my book, and I actually shared it in a big group that I was coaching in first, and I was so glad that I did, because afterwards I got all these messages from people saying, "Oh my
Mm,
gosh, I did that too." And it just speaks to that whole cognitive dissonance that we talk about. Like, on this deeper level, I knew there was something going on, but the I just couldn't, my actions couldn't go there. I
right.
couldn't. And so I was started doing this thing when I would leave for work again in the morning. So getting up and leaving for work, I would, in my rear view mirror in my car, I would check the whites of my eyes. And again, because I had picked up from somewhere and probably my Google searches, am I an alcoholic? Like all those Google
Right.
searches that I did, I knew the liver and I knew you were in trouble if you saw any kind of yellow. And they talked about the whites of your eyes. And so clearly, subconsciously, there was a worry there,
Yes.
of what I was doing and there's something wrong. And it was just this. I've heard the term bone chilling before, but I only
Mhm.
experienced it truly in this moment. I'll never forget it. And not because I was sitting there and I saw yellow. And it was just
Wow.
again, bone chill. This throughout my body was fear. Because
So let me just get this picture. So you like literally you're doing this. You check your eyes.
yeah.
They're most of the time they're clear, and then the one time you look and you're like, oh
And
my
it
god,
was,
they're
and
yellow.
then of course I look again praying that I'm wrong, but it was clear as day that there
Wow.
was yellow. It was so clear.
Was there something before that though? Like anything with your stomach or,
Oh, yes, like I
gastrointestinal
said, the
issues or
GI, so, I mean, upset stomach all the
okay.
time, I would get sick a lot, but it
Mhm.
again, all of that was very anxiety that's what my anxiety looked like in college even, so
I
it was
see.
very married, and so that's what
Mm,
really muddied the waters, and so sometimes people will ask me, like, "What are the cues?" And I'm like, it's so interesting, people that I talk to, you will, like, you'll go to every doctor out there,
yeah,
so I went to a GI doctor, again, I went to that neurologist at one time, I went to my doctor, like, I'm not feeling good, so but it was always around the anxiety, there's this, they're like, "Well, there's this going on with your stomach." They never really asked me other than the form how
right.
much I was drinking, which
Yep.
again, that's not all there. I wasn't telling the
Of
truth.
course,
So, I
most
mean,
people don't. Most people
no.
don't.
So I was not giving them that piece to the
Right.
puzzle that they would have needed. So I would say the flags are your body does
Mhm.
show signs. We just so quickly, Maureen, will say, oh, it's this or
Oh,
it's
yeah.
that. We'll
I did.
point to another direction. And that's the thing, because you can until you see the yellow. Then the yellow, see, that's where I really had to face the
Yeah.
music and go, wait a
Yeah.
minute, there's something wrong with my liver. But true to my fashion, because this was the thing, I was going to just keep moving. Was just brought up where you pick
Right.
yourself up and keep trudging through. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it right. It just so happened I was in a friend's wedding that weekend.
Mm,
How I how I did this is beyond me, but again, shows my issues of not being able to say, "Help me, I'm not okay." Um, and also looking back, I didn't know, but obviously it was clear when I was trying on my bridesmaid's dress. It was very like all of a sudden nothing fit me in the middle, and I of course then blame the seamstress or whatever, because there was no way I could gain that kind of weight in the short amount of time. What I did know
mm,
at the time was that's fluid. There was fluid starting to
right.
build on my belly, which again is goes to ascites, all this medical stuff. But of course, I'm not thinking that. So there were signs like that. Um, but I kept like, when I get through this, I'll tell everybody like I need help. I definitely knew I was going to do that. At this point, too, I was definitely very sleepy
Mm,
and honestly not drinking a ton. And that's the thing that people need to understand too. Like your body just starts to shift. Like it's like
right.
it was clear there was a problem. It definitely helped that I was surrounded by doctors. My boyfriend at the time, who is now my amazing husband,
Mm,
is a doctor, and he knew, and so he and another dear friend right after the wedding took me to a local emergency room, and that is where I watched my body. It was like all the spinning, like everything.
mm,
Um, where I just kind of let go, and the yellow, like it then was spreading all over my arms. Like it was, things were bad. And so it was very acute, very intense. And again, still hanging on to my story very tight, Maureen. I was so scared of people actually finding out what happened. Meanwhile, the doctors are asking me all these questions. They then, of course, I'm telling them that I'm, of course, not drinking all that much. It has to be something else. I think because of who I was with, they just said, okay, you can leave. We've got
mm,
you somewhat stable, but we need you to go get blood work in 2 days. That is, you're promised us if we let you leave, then you need to go. And so again, my friend, they're both, and my boyfriend, they of course are promising we'll make sure. So they're like, good, just make sure she gets her blood work. Um, that is again where I still to this day, it's just the chilling, because I was not getting better. I
right.
was again not and not drinking. So people think, oh, then you're drinking, but then you can. I tell my story because sometimes you can only push your body so far, and
Yeah.
then there's a point of no return. I was at the point of no return. My liver, my body said, I can only do so much and I can't do this anymore.
Mm,
My friend took me to a local lab place, where I proceeded to, I mean, I was starting to not even look like myself. Like
mm.
even to the lab person, I was jarring, just that
So once
greenish
you saw your
yellow.
yellow eyes, it happened pretty fast, and
Yes.
then
Cause
okay.
then, again, I also learned, Y'all, our liver does so much for our body.
Right.
Oh my God. It
We
is
take it for
so,
granted.
no, you can't. You can't
I
take
know,
it
but
for
we did,
granted.
right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And so the ascites then is really accentuating. My belly's
Mm.
just growing. I don't know what's happening. I'm like, go back home and I'm sleeping. My phone is ringing like crazy. I recognize the digits to be to the hospital that is like an hour from me. And this was truly the next bone chilling moment. And it
Mm.
was a doctor. And, doctors, they'll have critical labs. So you go get the labs, and, typically you hear in a few days of what's going
Mhm.
on. But when someone has an acute issue, like, the doctors get alerted right away, obviously. So I get, and it still to this day makes me cry, Maureen. It is crazy. Like, it was just such a pivotal moment in
Yeah.
my life, because she made sure, who it was. And she said, are you okay? And I said, I don't think I am. I feel like I'm dying. And she said, you are. I think you are too.
Whoa, I just got chills.
And it just was this, it took my breath away. Again, it was that
Yeah, level.
the next level of all the plates falling. Like, I'm not going to be able to fix this. And then she said, because I'm from this teaching hospital, and it's a big hospital in Charleston, South Carolina, the Medical University of South Carolina. And she said, if I need you to get to the hospital now, if you can't get here, I'm going to be sending an ambulance to you. And again, that was the next whoosh of like, just
This
how
is
serious.
serious. You're like, I can't be in denial
Right,
anymore.
right.
I am
I had to
dying.
call my parents, my poor parents, and
Oh my gosh.
they lived close by. They came over immediately. My boyfriend left work. He came immediately. And that's where, again, where I was in liver failure. My
Mm.
liver was not working. And again, here's the thing, y'all. It obviously get to the hospital, but then it's a waiting game. And in these moments, there's really nothing they can do. They can do these certain things, but they can't make your liver start to work again. All it was at this point, because you're so acutely sick, is
Mm.
just, let's do, like, again, try and hydrate, try and do all this, try and do those basic
Right.
things. But all it was we got to wait to see if this girl's liver starts back. If not,
Time.
I was gone. Like that, there was nothing they can do. You're gone.
How
Like,
long
and
were you in the hospital?
um, I was there, I believe, for 12 days. But again, they had the pastor come. Like, it was my sister's. I mean, I think about that to this day. And, my
Carla.
sisters, they, of course, it was the family members that were worried about their drinking, but they had to have that conversation with my family. We don't know if she's going to make it out of here. And so, and at this point, I need y'all to hear me. I was 36 years old. I was a baby. Oh my gosh.
When you think you're invincible.
Yes. And
Mm.
because I did. I mean, how long did I
Right.
say, like, oh, I'll stop one day. I'm
Right.
young, I'm working, I'm doing all this stuff. And that could have been gone. And I really want people to hear that, because, years from then, and even in my coaching, and I wrote about this woman in my book, and there's a picture in the back just dedicated to her and to a few other people that have been in my life that are no longer there. And I remember seeing this woman, Maureen, and she was coming to me to talk about alcohol. And oh my gosh, I just saw my face and her face. Like, I knew, like, you saw the inflammation, you
Mm.
saw that
Yeah.
kind of glassy eye look. And she was in the middle of, really stressful time in her life. It was intense. Yeah, a lot going on. So she said one time, and she said, I'm going to come back to you when this is over. Like, when I get this, divorce out of the way, when I get all these really big acute things out of the way, I'm going to come back and we'll tackle this drinking. And I remember I was so glad I said it, because I said, please don't. I said that it's truly like a game of Russian roulette. Like, I got the chance, like, my liver started back that
Thank
time. Like,
God.
thank goodness, it slowly, but the numbers started to improve, and my liver said, okay, we can do this again.
Okay.
Um,
So you're in this massive wake up call. You don't know
yes.
if you're going to die.
Yeah.
12 days in the hospital. Your liver, thank God, probably youth was on your side, starts
Yes.
to come back. So at this point, mentally, are you making the connection that the drinking has to stop? Like, what
Oh,
happened?
and again, this this is the hardest part
Yeah.
because I, of course, said I'm never going to drink again, but I had no attachments, nothing to say how to do it,
Mhm.
like how to actually stop drinking. And I will tell people, like, if you get my book, please do. Like, and if you read any of it, you could just stop at the prologue. It's written by my physician, like at the time, and her name is Dr. Loretta Jocelyn. She's still in my life.
Mm,
And actually, it's super cool. The afterword is written by another female physician that is just a superstar in my life that took care of me afterwards. So it was so amazing to have these physicians write the bookends of my book,
right.
the beginning and the end, because that's where they showed up in the story. But if you can just read that, it is a jaw stopper. And because she writes of just her perspective of being a hepatologist and being a physician and knowing we sent her out into the world, into the said, guess you can't drink again.
Mm.
Send you on the way when you have zero tools and zero
Right.
anything of the wherewithal of how to do that other than start going to meetings. Go to meetings and you
Yeah,
do this.
I just want to stop you there because that's so important because even well-educated doctors, experts in their fields, don't have any idea about what it takes to stop drinking.
No,
You
they
know, and
have.
that's all we knew was go to
Well,
meetings, right?
exactly. And
Mhm.
again, we have to remember doctors are not immune to this exact
No,
same
there's a lot of them are
messaging.
drinking too,
Yeah,
sure.
they've
Of
been
course.
told the same messages.
Yes.
And she said in that um beautiful piece that she wrote in the beginning was saying they doctors do they will, even the hepatologists, they see what the alcohol's doing,
Mm.
they will leave the stressful day and go home and hit the bourbon bar. Like they don't have the
It's the
attachment of what's
disconnect.
happening. I
Yeah.
was written to by someone that I went to high school with that's a physician, and just a beautiful message because she said thank you for writing this book because I myself put myself in check of
Right.
going, wait a minute, here I am at the end of the day, and then I'm going to go home and drink. I don't like this. So we had a beautiful conversation around that. And I love that.
Well,
Um,
let me ask you now then, how do you talk to women about alcohol health related issues and the shame that holds us back from seeking help, for our health, stopping drinking for the health of it? How do you
right.
talk to them about that?
Well, again, I always share my story because like I
Mhm.
said a minute ago,
Powerful.
I tell them I don't want them to be me. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important. And that's why I feel a sense of responsibility to share my story,
Yeah.
to talk about it, we need more healthy faces on the other side
Yes.
to talk about, like I'm sitting here looking at you, like again, the fit and healthy and to understand, wait a minute, we need to put the defenses down because
Yeah.
first of all, people's defense mechanism goes up anytime you talk
Mhm.
about alcohol.
Yeah, don't touch my
We have to
alcohol.
start being right. We have to start being really real about what this stuff is and
Yeah.
what it's doing to people's bodies. We just have to have that conversation, especially because what is happening. I mean, it is killing people in droves. That is
It
no
is.
joke. And
Mhm.
it is that the biggest number of people that's happening to is young women.
Yeah.
And so this is no longer, a man's disease.
Nope.
They're seeing it more and more often, and it's young women.
And women are
And
being targeted too as far as advertising too.
oh, yes,
Literally, the marketing people were like, "We're missing this entire group of women. Let's go for the mommies and the mommy wine
yes,
culture and the young, sophisticated working woman." And
yes,
then, like we were talking about before we started recording, your age group, my age group, and up are still partying like it's 1980, right?
right.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
women are absolutely being affected in droves.
And I want people to know too, like I want you to be angry. They are targeting
Mm,
you with purpose. And we had a really powerful coach in my training class, and she gave a really powerful speech, but she was in the alcohol industry.
yes.
And she said, I was way up in that world in the alcohol company, and we would have meetings
Hmm.
on how to get the young women, how to get, and the thing that stunned us all the most, because you just think there's no way. She was like, they're finished with you. They're not even marketing to you anymore. They want the young people.
Mm,
They want when can we get them as
how
early as
early?
possible? And that is how she said, how do we get the 13 and 14-year olds?
Make
And
them
that,
tasty. Put them in
yeah,
those White Claws.
then she said all of that is purposeful.
That's
The
right.
little can, the little
Mhm.
poppy drinks, the little, pretty can, they are not selling to you, they're selling to your kids.
Yeah.
And that just floored
Wow.
me.
I want
And so
everybody to hear that.
I want them to hear it. And she
Yes.
said, we have top psychologists. This is not, just like, hey, let's make a plan. They are very intentional and they know what they're doing.
Yep.
So please don't think you're immune to it. I know I probably would have, but I honestly want us to all get angry and be like, wait a minute, let's just like, you're being sold a lie.
And I think that can
And
also allow people to give themselves the grace to go, wait a minute, I'm being targeted, I'm being marketed to. Of
yes,
course, I didn't understand, but now there is so much more information, and there are
yes,
coaches and there are organizations and there is so much more, so
there's
you can
so
get
much more.
informed.
And that's what I hope keeps spreading more. People are becoming aware because that's what I do think we need to
Yes.
do a better job of. The medical message is getting out there like, hey guys, this we can't like, the American Cancer Society, we can't, recommend this at all. Like all this
Right.
things, which actually ends up scaring a lot of people. So we need people to know, okay, there's other things. And because I always want people to hear me loud and clear. I love that there's AA out there.
Hmm.
I love it. I think it's amazing. It is
Yep.
so
Me too.
easily accessible. It's out there, but I desperately want people to know there's multiple other avenues as well. Even podcasts, like
Yep.
podcasts like these. Like I remember I held on so tight when I was newly alcohol free. I found podcasts and I was like, oh, I just couldn't get enough. It's where I
Yeah.
started to learn.
Bring in
And
your brain. You
yes, and I
literally are
was
changing your brain chemistry. Your brains are neuroplastic, as you know, just sharing this with the
yes,
audience. So by taking in the information, that is helping to change your brain and fight against the chemical changes that we have been causing to ourselves by drinking. So take in the information. It does make a difference.
it does. And I think that's probably one of the biggest message I want people to know. Like I wish I had known at the time when I was in the height of
Oh,
it
yeah.
that life could be what it's like today. Like there
Yeah.
was also a message that was told to us that you're then going to crave this stuff every day of your life.
Yes.
Oh my God. I was like, that sounds
It's
miserable,
terrible.
like
Right.
terrible. And, you and I were actually just talking about this before jumping on here. Y'all,
Mhm.
the neuroplasticity is so real and it is so beautiful. And you will watch yourself go through these intense situations, fun situations, like you name it, like
Yeah.
celebrations, hard times, you name it. And I still to this day, I'm well into 10 years now of being alcohol free.
Incredible.
And
Yep.
I'll walk away from those situations and I will say, I'm so glad I'm
Yeah.
not drinking. I am so glad because
Me
you
too.
see yourself show up in ways that you never thought possible. And you're so thankful for that clear head,
Hmm.
that your mind, your nervous system is,
Confidence.
yes, confidence. I'm just, I was masking. I always was who I am,
Yeah.
right? Like I always was this person. And alcohol was just dimming that light and
Yeah.
making me small and made me think I wasn't capable of anything.
Alcohol, I love how you say that alcohol was dimming your light and making you
Yes.
small, because I think it really does make us small, especially as women. And so this is such an important message. I want to ask you, "And She Came Tumbling Down," the name of your book. How did you come up with that title? I can imagine so many, but I want to hear your words.
I think it was the idea of as soon as I wrote it down, like I knew it was it, kind of
Mm,
gave me one of those moments that it kind of gave the description of what happened. And,
yeah.
a few times in this podcast, I gave that description of kind of like in the plates came falling,
Yeah.
I wanted it. It was this picture of the woman that like I'm pretending that I've got it all, like I've got it all together. I'm gonna, if I don't have it, then I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna push through. And eventually that doesn't work and you just come falling down. And that was the picture of what happened. And, in the book, I think it's important to see, I write about the buildup. I write about the real thing of what it looked like.
Hmm.
And then I write a little bit about what it's like to walk away from it. I just want people to
So
have
good.
hope and I want them to understand, especially because I do feel a sense of responsibility. I am someone that has a diagnosis of cirrhosis, which I would have thought was, a death sentence when I
Mhm.
first got it. It just doesn't have to be that way. And also there's just a beautiful life on other side of it. So I want the people also because there's so much shame. We could have a whole other
On
podcast around
shame. Yeah.
of shame and
Mhm.
because that was stifling for me.
Mhm.
And I want people to know, even if you've been diagnosed with something, liver related, it is okay. It is okay. And it is highly resilient, but you do have to stop drinking.
Yes. Yeah.
You do. I mean, you have to stop drinking, but there's so many different ways to do that. And it's finding the right space. I think, having a community is really
Yeah.
important, a community of people that you can talk to and use, the language that you use that works for you.
I agree.
And finding those people and doing the work. And it requires
It is
work, but
work.
it is. But let me tell you, the body, and I'm sure you saw this too, your body thanks you. And there are so many rewards on the
Y
other side.
Yeah, and we were talking your body thanks you, but also as we age, our bodies are going through other things. I have a bad back right now, I was sharing
Yes.
with you, and I can only think, "Thank God I'm not drinking this inflammatory toxin that would only make everything worse." It's hard
Right.
enough to age, right?
Right.
Stuff we go through, and just removing that substance removes so many issues. I'm not painting it, like rainbows and unicorns. I'm just saying we're not adding this inflicting inflammatory agent
Right. Well, because
to our
it's also,
bodies.
like I described it earlier, like how it muddies the waters for,
Mhm.
I'm the same. I'm 49. I am stepping into this whole perimenopause, like
Oh,
my
yeah.
body is trying to figure this whole thing out. But I don't have alcohol on board that's muddying the waters as to
Exactly.
what is going on with my
Mhm.
hormones. So when I go, to get everything checked out, I know it is what it is. Alcohol disrupts so much, and you're
Everything.
actually doing yourself a disservice because you might have something legitimately going
Yeah.
on, but you're not going to see it, or it thinks it's something else. And so removing that and clearing your body is such a gift.
Yeah, so this is about taking care of yourself. This is about,
Hmm.
changing, we often say your relationship with alcohol for your health, not because alcohol is, we used to just say, well, alcohol's bad and that's all we knew, but I'm going to drink it because I'm young and I'm having fun. Don't take my
Right.
alcohol away from me, right? But now we're so much more educated and informed. So you care about your health. Most of these people that are listening work out, eat right, go actually to extreme measures to do those things, but we're putting
Yes.
in a toxic agent, every night. So just hear Carla's story. It's so important. Get
Hmm.
her book, And She Came Tumbling Down. You can also find her at The Zero Proof Life, and soon, or it's already starting, your
It
podcast, right?
started. Yeah. The
Good.
Zero
Zero
Proof
Proof
Life
Life
podcast.
podcast. So check
Yes,
out
where I need to
Carla.
have you on, Maureen. So we'll
Oh,
continue our conversation on that.
I know, I could talk to you for a long time. I love this.
Say.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being a guest on Sober Fit Life. What I like to always ask people is, what do you do to be sober fit now?
Oh, so many things. Well, one thing that I have picked up that is new is pickleball. So getting
Ooh.
out and moving my body and doing that and stretching myself in that way. But also, I see sober fit in a different way because, again, because I did struggle with
Mhm.
anxiety, I do things to really help myself in a healthy way to stay calm. And I see that as part of being fit as well.
Yes.
And so I crack up. So I think moving my body is one of those things, but also learning how to just be and just be calm. And I just picked this up, Maureen, and it cracks me up to even say it, but I started cross stitching. A dear friend of mine taught me how to do it. It is the most relaxing thing. I just sit there and it helps me for the times I do. I want to check out and I want to decompress. I'll just pick up the thing and start stitching, and it's really nice. So those were two new things that I
Oh.
started doing that I just love.
Yeah, fit in my definition in this podcast is all encompassing: mental, physical,
Right.
spiritual. So I love that you pointed that out. So
Right.
again, thank you, Carla, so much for being on here, and I look forward to getting on your podcast and talking more.
Yes.
And everybody, check out Zero Proof Life.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI.